Today we will be seeing OOPS. So OOPS is object-oriented programming. So you will be discussing a lot about objects and how to manipulate the object, how to handle them. And so for this OOPS for you guys to understand OOPS, you should understand all. You should be very comfortable with all these topics, like what is class and attributes of class and methods in class, and then later inheritance polymorphism. Okay. So let's go one by one. Let's first see what is class. We can tell class is a blueprint or template, a template you follow to create object. So that is a standard template. You follow that to create an object. And when you create an object, you also define attributes like properties, behaviors of that object that you created. Okay, you have to create an object and also tell what are their properties and behavior. So let's show you an example. This is a basic syntax for class. You should have the class keyword and then your class name. Okay. And this class name is called dog here. And by conventional, the name of the class should always start with capital letter. Okay. And then now this is a class. Here I just mentioned their properties, one of their attribute. I mentioned what is their breed. It is one of their properties. Okay. So now we are going to create an object from the class. As I said, class is a template using which you will be creating an object. And object is an instance of a class. Okay, it's a tangible entity created from class and it has its own data. So let me show. Here I'm creating an object. My object name is Sam. And here I'm using a class to create my object. So this is a class name. So I'm using it. And I'm giving what is a property of that particular object, what I created. So breed is lab. So I have to mention what is the property of my object, my own object. So I mentioned here. So this is how I create my own object using this class. Similarly, I can create many other objects using the same class. I can create multiple objects and somebody else can create many other objects using this one single class template. Okay. So this SAM, the object I have created, is called instance of a class. It is one particular instance we created from the class. So we call, in other words, we call the statement as instantiate. What we are doing, we are creating an instance. So it's called instantiation. So let's say you wanted to track students. They have different attributes, example, name, sex, age, mark, address. If a list is used or a dictionary used, it would be very difficult to store multiple students and also difficult to access all their attributes and behavior. And this, it here we need class as a solution. Okay. So the object will have three things. One is state, another is behavior, and the other is identity. State is represented as an attribute, the attribute you are passing. Okay. And behavior is method. So we have seen so far what is class and object. Later we will be seeing method. Method are called behavior of that particular object. And identity. Identity is just a unique name you are giving to your own object, in which you can interact with other object. Okay. And here you see when we create function in normal way, the function name will not look like this. It for example, here we have self and we are telling self dot grade. So this particular function, the first init function, what we create inside the class will look little different from our usual function. But this is a standard function you will be having inside all your classes. Whenever you create a class, you will have one init method inside it, function inside it, and later you can create multiple other function inside the same class. So we will see why we have this and what is the meaning of this. So init is nothing but you're telling it's a initialization method. This is one of the method. So when you have function inside the class or when you have a function inside an object, you call it as method. You don't call it as a function, but it's nothing but function only. But when it comes inside it, you call it as a method. Okay. So let's call this as a method. So this method is used to initialize an object because using this method, passing the value breed is equal to lab only, we are creating. Whenever we call class and we pass breed is equal to lab, this particular method is invoked because you're calling this method only and you are giving value of this method only, value for this method. I mean, you are passing the attribute for this and using this only you're creating your own object. So this is called initialization method because you are instantiating or creating your object using this method. It is also called constructor. Even in our language, we have this term called constructor because you use that to create your own object, to construct your object. Okay. And this is the first method you will see in any class, and it's kind of a special method. That's why you have underscore underscore in it. Okay. This is how you will always define this particular part. This will be same throughout whenever you create a class. And every method inside the class will have first attribute as self. Okay. And so this extra parameter self, you should be having this in all the method you define inside a class. This is the first extra parameter you will see, and it takes no argument. But then we still have one argument here. Then usually it doesn't. This particular self doesn't take any argument. Only the breed will take accept some value. Here you see you're accepting this breed is accepting value. You're passing lab as a breed here. But the cell will not accept any value. Whenever you call a method of an object, when you create an object using class, the object is automatically passed as a first argument using self. When you see self, you will know these methods are created inside class and can be accessed by the object of the. So these are the method created inside the class. All the method inside the class will have its first parameter as self. And whenever you see that, you will know it is inside part of some class, which is used to create an object. So it's one of the parameter we use in the instance method in all the methods in your class. It might be confusing, but this is how you have to do. So you will have one init method inside the class and you will have multiple other methods as well, depending on your logic and your need. And this init method and every other method will have the first parameter as self. But you do not assign anything to self at all. It will not accept any parameter, but you should be having self comma and your parameter, whatever parameter you wanted. And whenever we accept the value, the input from the user, and we save it, we should also give self dot breed. All the parameter you have to give like self dot and the parameter name. This is how you will be writing your methods inside the class. Clear?
So, ma'am, here self and breed are the parameters, right?
Sorry?
Self and breed are the parameters or methods?
Yeah, self and breed are the parameters of the init method. But this parameter will not accept any value. For example, if you have def sum a comma b, a will accept some value and b will accept some value which you will be processing, right? But in this
Right.
case, self will not accept any value. You will not pass any value for self. it you will have self, but you will not pass anything. But that and all the other parameter when you define here, you will be calling it self dot breed, which means you are telling using this method you can create the particular property of an object,
Okay. And the same syntax we have to follow for all the
all the
objects.
class. Yeah.
Yeah, all the class. Okay.
So let me show another example. So here we will see some detailed one in class. So what is the class name here?
And
Dog.
dog,
Okay. And how many method do we have inside that particular class?
3.
What are they?
Self, name, and breed.
No, no, I was asking how many methods are we having inside this?
Name and breed.
Name.
No. Okay. What method?
Init and bark, right?
Yeah, init and tag. What is method in general? So whenever you create a function inside the class, you call it as a method. As simple as when you see a function, you don't call it as a function because this is a function, right? Bark is a function because you have a def keyword. But when you see it inside any class, you call it as a method. Clear? So how many functions, how many methods we have inside the class dog?
Yeah, I hear 2. Init,
Mm-hmm. What are they?
init and bark.
Okay. So we have two methods. This is the instantiation method using which you create an object. And these are the other method you will be using it for your object. Okay. And here, these are the attribute. Okay. The parameters usually we call parameter, right? Here we call it as an attribute. You can call it as a parameter as well. Okay. These are the parameters of this particular init method. And this method doesn't have any parameter. You have self, but you're not accepting any attribute which accepts value, right? And this method is not accepting any data. You can create a method which will not accept any parameter, but you have a logic inside it, right? So this is one such method, and even though if you do not have any parameter, you should have self, okay, inside it.
Okay. And ma'am, this instantiation means is it for the is to inherit the properties of the class?
Yeah.
Okay.
And these are called instance attribute, okay, because this is a instance method. Whenever you have attribute inside it, you call instance attribute, okay. But this particular variable, which is outside all the function, but it is inside class. So this is called class attribute, okay. So for example, uh, let me further. So we have a class now, okay. Let me create an object so that you will understand it much better. So here, what is my object name?
My dog.
Correct. Why do you tell that is an object? How do you know it's an object?
Mm, because inside class we are calling those parameters, right? Equal.
Because we are calling,
Yeah.
you're using a class name. which means you are creating an object. You will use class name only when you create an object, okay? And the method, the special method, init method, those parameters you are passing, okay? That's how you call a class. You call a class and you pass the parameter of this method, which means you're calling this particular method, okay? So you're calling this method using the class name. When you do this, which is nothing but you're creating an object. You do this only when you create an object. No other case you will be having a class name. You will be calling the class name, okay? So you're creating your own object using the class dog, correct? Here, what is the name of that particular dog? What is the name I have given to my object? What is the name I'm giving to my object? So name means I'm here having a name, right? Name and breed. I have two different parameter. What is the name I'm giving to my dog?
Buddy.
Hmm. What is the breed my dog is?
Golden Retriever.
Okay. So similarly, what I can do, I created my dog and somebody can create their own dog. Okay. So here in your dog, what is the name of the dog?
Daisy.
And what is the breed?
Labrador.
Okay. So here, these instances you can modify. Whenever you create your own object, you are giving your own name and your own breed. But this particular class attribute, when it is very common, you give it as a class attribute. So all these, whether it is a Labrador or it is a Golden Retriever, it belongs to Canis family. Okay, it belongs to Canis family. As all the dogs, all the dog species belong to this. All the dogs family belong to this species. Okay, Canis. So that's why it is given as a class attribute. When particular item will be common for all the object, which will never change, then you create that particular variable as a class attribute. Okay. So now let's see further. Uh, so here, this is the class and this is my object and this is the method. Clear? So this method, whatever is there, we have bark, we might have multiple other method as well. Whenever whatever method we have inside the class, right? Which all those method can be used by your object. Once you create an object using this class dog, you can use this method. Okay, your object can use this method. But when you use it, you have to use like this: your object name dot the method name. Okay. So let me give my dot bark. So let me run all this. So it is telling, okay, bound method dog dot bark. So here what I'm doing, I'm printing some statement. Yeah, I'm calling the parameter name. Okay. When you call a parameter, similarly, you have to give object name, your attribute. Okay. So your dog dot name is nothing but Daisy and belongs to my dog dot species. Species is nothing but this one, right? Whether I use my dog or your dog, whatever I use, it will result only this Canis family arrays. Okay. Because all the object which is created using this class dog, this is a different object. This is another object. Two different object we have, which we created using the class dog. But all share this particular value. This will never change for any of the object you create inside it. So even though I give my dog, it gives me the Canis family arrays. And I can also, since it is a class attribute, I can also call it using the class name dot the attribute. Similarly, how you are giving dog name, my dog, your object dot the variable name, object dot attribute. Here you're using my dog, your dog dot name, your object name, and the attribute name. Okay, you're calling it to get this value Daisy. Similarly, only for these class attribute, you can call class name dot the attribute. So this is how you can access your class attribute, and you can also access it like this. You can create an object and you can access the class attribute. Clear?
Ma'am, in the second belongs to, right? How does it refer to the species? My dog.
Here. Okay. So here you're asking how does it has the species. You're able to access the species, correct?
Right.
Okay. So this is a special method using which you create an object. When you create an object, you pass this value, right? When you
Yeah.
pass this value, you are able to access that value. You can tell my dog dot buddy, sorry, my dog dot name, you will get buddy. Okay. Similarly, my dog dot breed, I can print all those. So it is telling buddy and golden retriever. So name and breed, I'm able to access. So because it all the attributes of my object, correct? But when it comes to class attribute is something, a variable you create outside the method. It doesn't belong to any method. It directly belongs to the class, correct? This is called class attribute. Whenever some variable belongs to particular method or yeah, method, you call it as an instance attribute, okay? So class attributes are shared by all the docs, all the objects. Here, when I mean all the docs, all the object created using docs, it is shared by all of them. Everybody can access class attribute. Once you create an object using this class, you can access this. Okay, that's why you are able to access.
Okay.
So here you see my dog.species, you are able to access it. But when it comes to class attribute, you can also access using the name, class name dot species. You can, because it is a class attribute, you can access using class name also and using your object name.
Okay. So class attributes, those are only available inside the class, right? We cannot access
Yeah,
outside
it
the
is
class.
directly inside the class. Yeah.
Okay.
So here, when you create one single class template, you can create multiple objects. I will relate it to the real world, what we have seen so far. For example, we have list, correct? List, consider list as a class. They have created list as a class only. Okay. But you can create your own list. So I'll be writing list one is equal to 1, comma 2, comma 3, comma 4. This is my list, right? I'm creating a list. Here, for example, you are using class name and you're passing attribute, but they have made it very simple. Whenever you use square bracket, which is nothing but you're creating an object of this particular class list, okay? Because they would have created a class name just like this only. They would have given the square bracket as a class name. So now I've created my own list. Maldi or Arlene can create their own list. They can create list two. A different, you can assume this is a different object created using a class. Okay. So she can create like this. Correct. And you can create a different object, but all the method will be same for all your object, all the remaining method. All the dog will bark. Correct. Similarly, whether the object I have created or Arlene has created, it can use the method. So this count would have been created inside the class list. Okay. So when you create an object using list from the class, you can also access particular method which is created inside the class. So that is why you are giving dot. Usually when you call a function, you will not give dot. When you call an object class method, so you're creating an object and you're calling the method, then you have to go use this dot. Correct? Okay. So this method is to count the number of occurrences of the value I have given. Okay. This method can also be used for list. Okay. So that's how we create our own class as well. We have a class and you're creating an object using the class. Everybody can create their own object. You can create multiple objects, but all the other remaining method, no, whatever you have inside the class, every object can access that particular method. I'll show another example so that you will understand in detail. Hmm. Okay, let this be. I'll go step by step. What is this? What is employee?
Class.
Yeah, class name. How do you tell it's a class name?
It is starting with capital or
Capital. Yeah, but you have a class keyword, correct?
yeah, class keyword. Yeah.
When you have a class keyword, when you have a name, it's nothing but you're creating a class, and this is the name of the class you are giving your class, correct?
Right.
Then it should have a init method. A class should have their init method, right? So here, I'm accepting parameter name and salary. I'm accepting name and salary whenever an object is created using this method. I'm just incrementing the employee count. Probably I should be giving employee count here. Okay. So what employee count?
Class attribute.
Okay. So you can call it class attribute or class variable. Both are
Yeah.
same only. Okay. So how do you tell it's a class attribute?
It's outside the method.
Outside the method and directly inside the class. So
Right.
that is why when you access particular class attribute, your class name, because you cannot directly access the class attribute like that. You have to give class name dot class attribute. You are updating the employee count. Okay.
Yeah.
So now here, this is your method. Whenever you call this method to create your own object, you will be increasing. Whenever each employee got created, the employee count will be automatically incremented. Okay. We have other methods as well. Okay, inside the class. One is a display count, another is a display employee. What does the display count does? It gives me what is the latest count, the employee count. Okay, and display employee will give their data like salary. Okay, now let's create our first object. Okay, I'm creating employee one, which is one object using the class name employee. And class, whenever you create an object, you call class and the init method is called. So you have to pass name and salary. Okay. So I'm passing name and salary. Okay. I have to create a class. Okay. Mm, okay. I have created all object. Now, what I'm doing in this line?
Adding employee name and the salary.
I'm creating another object, right?
Yeah.
So I'm creating another object. The object name is employee using the class employee. So this object is created from employee, correct? Now, what am I doing here? What does this display employee is?
It will print employee name and salary details.
Okay, what is this called?
This it is calling display employee method, right?
We call it as a method. And I'm accessing this method from my object, correct?
Yeah.
What will this print?
First one, the employee Zara and 2000.
Okay, so it is printing above the print statement is created here, correct? So again, you see here, whenever you access any attribute, you are giving self dot. This is this variable or attribute belongs to class. So you are giving class name dot. And again, here you see you when you call this employee account, you want to print, I'm calling class name dot. Here I want to access this variable. Again, I'm even during the print, I'm giving self dot name and dot salary. That's how throughout your class you have to call. Okay. So here I did employee. So what will this do?
Yeah, it will print employee to object details, money and 5000. Yeah.
Mm, Okay, I haven't run this at all. Now, yeah. So what will this give? This particular.
Employee count. Okay. It will print 2.
Okay. So whenever you're calling this method, it is incremented. Whenever you call class, nothing but you're calling this method, right?
Yeah.
So it will be 2 now. Okay, let's see one last example. Okay, on the same class method. So here, what is my class name?
Circle.
Okay, and how many method does it have?
4.
Okay, what are they?
Init, set radius, calculate area, calculate circumference.
Okay, do we have any class attribute here?
No.
Radius,
Radius is not class attribute. Radius is an instance attribute.
instant. Yeah, right. Sorry.
When you have something like this here, which is directly inside, you're creating a variable directly inside the class. It's called class attribute. Okay. So now I wanted to create a circle. I mean, I wanted to create an object from class circle, or you can tell I want to create an instance of class. Okay. How do I create my own object now? What should I give here?
First, we give the name of the circle. Whatever you want
Okay.
to.
Let's name it C1. Then
C1 is equal to.
mm-hmm.
You want to call it. Sorry, you said you want to create an instant, right?
Yeah, instance or both. You wanted to create an object, you wanted to create an instance. Both are same only. Either you're
Okay.
creating an object or you're creating an instance of a class, because object is nothing but an instance of a class. Okay. When I tell instance of a class or object, both are same. So yeah, here I want to create an object. How do I do that? Go ahead, tell me how. What should I now?
C1 equal to circle class name.
Okay. What happened to you, Aline? Did you get confused now?
Uh, yeah, kind of.
Okay, so I wanted to create an object. What do I do? If I tell creating an object or creating an instance of a class, both are same only. The way I say is little different, but I wanted to create an object. How did I create my own object here?
Employee one, employee, and then you gave
What
the
is this
details.
employee?
That is the instance.
That is a class name, correct?
Yeah,
Okay. So similarly, what I have to give here?
class name.
Okay.
Whatever. Yeah,
Whatever from class I want to create.
yeah.
Then what values should I pass now?
And now you can give radius or the value of radius that you want. I think.
Okay. How do you tell that I want to give radius? Why are you telling that I want to give here radius? I should be giving radius to create an object. Why?
So basically, now you are giving the attribute that you want the object to have, right?
Mm. But how do you know that attribute is radius?
You put. I
Okay.
think you're supposed to
Wait.
put self dot radius.
No. Self is radius is fine. What you said
Okay,
is correct only. I want to pass the value of radius here. For
right.
example, 3.0. But how you are telling it is radius?
Basically, you want to create an object circle, and you want to put the attribute that
Where
you
did you
have
see
given.
this attribute? How you know that this is the attribute?
Okay,
Radius
you
is that.
defined it up. Uh,
Where did I define it?
uh, Define radius, set radius, self, and then radius.
No, you're wrong. So whenever I call class, Rahul, you have a different answer?
On this one in the init, we define self and radius, right?
Yeah. So yeah, Aline, whenever we
Okay.
call circle and
Mhm.
want to create an object, this init method, the special method, will be called by default. Okay. This is called instantiation method. Okay. You are creating an instance. So you should be calling this method only. Automatically when you give circle, this method will be called. When you call this method, you have to pass this particular value, right? When you
Okay.
call a method, when you call a function, usually if it has a parameter, you should be passing that parameter, right? So
Right.
since it has radius, I'm passing radius. If this particular method is not having anything, I will not be passing anything.
Okay.
Clear?
Okay. So
So even
whenever we are
here,
creating a new object, first we will go. If init is there, then first it comes to because
in
it is initialized, so
completely
it will first go.
without init, somebody will create a class. Init is must to create a
Okay.
class. Okay. Every class will have one init method. Yeah, go ahead. You are telling something. You were telling something, right, Arlene? You were explaining. Go ahead.
Actually, I was asking that so whenever we are creating a class, first we will go to it. First, we have to look at init because that is where
Yeah,
initialization takes place. So take
yeah.
the attributes from there.
True.
That's what you meant,
So
right?
that,
Yeah. Okay, I got it.
yeah, yeah. So here you have different method. I was giving name and salary because my init method was having name and salary. I must be giving, otherwise it might throw error. Okay. Because there is a function you're calling indirectly, you're calling this function when you give employee. Okay. You're calling this function, but if you're not passing this variable, what will happen? It will throw error, right? Uh, I'm calling it as a function for you to understand, but this is a method. When it comes to class, automatically you call it as a method. Okay. You're calling this method, but you have to pass parameter. If it is expecting parameter, you must be passing. Otherwise, it is into required positional argument, name and salary. Clear?
Got it.
So this is how I created my object. Now I created my object. This object is nothing but one of the instance of the class circle. Now, can I access this radius, set radius using my object?
Yes, you have to go with
How?
object method.
Okay. So this is a method I can call in any method inside the class using my own object, right?
Yeah.
How count is a one of the method inside the class. Whenever I create my own object, list one, list two, I am able to call that method, correct?
Right.
Similarly, I can call all this method. How do I call it? What syntax should I write to call it?
Uh, Circle,
Circle.
and that is your object dot method. So dot set radius.
Okay. Is the circle my method, my object?
C1, C1.
Hmm. Okay, I haven't run this both class and object creation.
No, ma'am. Method name updated. C1 above in the program, right?
Oh, okay. Control E. Okay. Let me run this. Why this is not printing for me? Okay, first let me this radius. This is my instance attribute. Okay, this is my instance, and these all instance attribute. Okay, so I can access them using my object name radius and c1 dot at radius. What is the problem? Okay, let me call calculate circumference. So here you are calculating the circumference. What you're doing? Okay, set radius is nothing but you're updating a radius. You are giving a new radius. Okay, when you want to update, you created a circle using some radius, but later you want to update it, then you can update it to a new radius. So here I have to pass the new value, okay? But here this calculate circumference is nothing but it will be applying formula on your radius, which you have given while creating an object. While you are creating an object, you have given the radius, which is nothing but 3.0. That particular value is applied here and you're calculating. Similarly, what I can do, C1 dot calculate area, and it got me a value. Now what will I do? I will update my radius, okay? Radius of my object. C1 dot, I will give some new radius, okay? So this particular method is created to update here because you're giving again radius and the radius is updated. Self dot radius. Here initially self dot radius is given, later it got updated. You're updating it, right? And yeah, now I'm giving a new radius 5.0. Now again I will run this circumference, okay? It was 18 when it was 3.0. Now it has changed and it gave me 31. Similarly, from 28, let's see what the area is. Now it is 78. Because I updated my radius later, when I run this, this gives me the updated value. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
So when I call it, why I'm not giving open and closed bracket here? Okay, why I'm giving open and closed bracket here? So this is not, what is this calculate area is?
The method.
Method. Okay, method. Correct here. When you call a method, you have to give open and close bracket, right? That's how you will be calling your functions earlier before we were introduced to the oops concept. Whenever you call a function, you should be giving open and close bracket, correct?
Correct.
If it has parameter, you will be passing parameter inside it. Otherwise, it will be empty. But you have to give open and, but when you call a variable, do you give open and close bracket?
No,
No.
do not.
Be- Yeah. So similarly, C1 dot radius. Radius is nothing but a instance attribute. So whenever I tell attribute or parameter, it is similar to variable only. But attribute and parameter, you're passing inside a method, okay? Passing inside, giving as an input to a method. But it is nothing but you're giving a variable name and you're passing value, correct? It is kind of a variable, but you're passing as an input parameter. So this is now variable, right? Radius, and you're setting value. When you call this, you need not pass any open and close bracket, correct? Clear? Why we are not giving here, but you are giving here open and close bracket.
Yes. So basically, ma'am, what you're saying is that this is also a way that I can find out whether I'm calling a method or I'm calling a variable, right? If it is a variable, if it is a method, there will be parentheses. If it is a, sorry, there will not be parentheses. If I'm calling a variable, there will not be parentheses. And if I'm calling a method, there will be parentheses, correct?
Yeah, true.
Okay.
For example, you're creating, for example, let me show. Hmm, I'm creating two different things, okay? Def add A comma B. So this is my one of the method I've created, okay? And later I have x is equal to 5, y is equal to 6. Now I'm passing this x and y, okay?
Yeah.
So what happened? Maybe add one. I will give add one. What is the problem here? I'll give directly 5 and 6, okay? Mm-hmm. And object is not iterable. I'm not iterating at all. Or I'll make it very simple. Okay. So here I'm calling a function, correct? Here. What I'm doing here, Arlene?
Here you're calling a function.
Here I'm defining a function, but here I'm calling a function. When I'm calling a function, I'm you giving parentheses, right?
Right.
But when I call this x, should I give parentheses?
That is a variable, so no.
No. And when I give print also, okay, print. What happened? The output of add function is add. Okay, add one. Okay. So here I am just calling the output of add function is I'm calling the function itself. I'm giving open and close bracket, okay, and passing value. And when I call x, am I giving any clues in open and close parenthesis for x?
No.
No, because it's a variable. As you said, it's a
Yeah.
variable you will not be using. Similarly, here radius is a variable.
Yes.
So you will not be giving open and close parenthesis, but calculate circumference, what it is.
This is a method.
So you will be giving open and close parenthesis, correct?
Yes.
So using your own object, you can access the variable and you can access the method, both. But you have to give dot. If you're accessing a variable, you will not be giving open close parenthesis. If you're accessing a method, you will be giving open and close parenthesis. Simple?
Yes.
Okay. We will see one more example tomorrow and we will proceed with inheritance and polymorphism. Okay. We should be very strong in this class and object concept, then we can go ahead with the other OOPS concept. Okay.
Sure. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. We will meet tomorrow, guys. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.